In a small interrogation room in Chicago, Detective Raymond Cole sat across from a terrified 19-year-old named Kevin Harris. What happened in that room over the next 8 hours destroyed Kevin's life, and it wasn't the first time. By the time the truth came out, Detective Cole had fabricated confessions from more than 50 innocent people. Some lost years, some lost decades, and 3 people lost their lives in prison for crimes they never committed. This is the story of how one man broke every rule, and how the system let him do it for over 15 years. Kevin Harris was just trying to survive. At 19 years old, he worked 2 jobs in South Chicago. During the day, he stocked shelves at a grocery store. At night, he delivered pizzas. He was saving money to help his mom with rent and maybe, one day, go to community college. Kevin had never been in trouble with the law. No arrests. No criminal record. He was quiet, kept to himself, and stayed out of the streets even though trouble was everywhere in his neighborhood. On March 14, 2006, everything changed. Kevin has finished his pizza delivery shift around 11 p.m. when 2 police cars surrounded him at a red light. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, and ordered him out of his vehicle. They handcuffed him right there in the middle of the street. "What did I do?" Kevin kept asking. "What did I do?" Nobody would answer him. They took him to the station and put him in a small, windowless interrogation room. The walls were gray. There was one metal table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs. A camera watched from the corner, but Kevin didn't know it wasn't recording. That's when Detective Raymond Cole walked in. Cole was a big man, over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders. He had been with the Chicago Police Department for 12 years and had a reputation. Other officers called him the Closer, because he always got confessions. Always. His conviction rate was over 90%, which made him a star in the department. But Kevin didn't know any of that. He just knew he was scared. "You know why you're here?" Cole said, sitting down across from him. It wasn't a question. "No, sir, I really don't," Kevin replied, his voice shaking. What Kevin didn't know was that a convenience store had been robbed 3 blocks from where he'd been pulled over. The clerk had been shot and killed. And Detective Cole had already decided Kevin was guilty. The interrogation lasted 8 hours. Kevin would later describe those 8 hours as the worst of his life. Cole didn't yell at first. He didn't hit him. He used something more effective: psychological warfare. "We have witnesses who saw you," Cole said calmly. "We have your fingerprints at the scene. We have video footage. Kevin, we have everything we need. The only question is whether you're going to help yourself or not." None of it was true. There were no witnesses. No fingerprints. No video. But Kevin didn't know that. "I didn't do anything," Kevin insisted. "I was delivering pizzas. Check my receipts. Call my boss." Cole ignored him. For the next hour, he repeated the same lies over and over. "We have the evidence, Kevin. We know it was you. The only way this gets better is if you tell the truth." Between 3 hours, Kevin asked for a lawyer. According to the law, the interrogation should have stopped immediately. But Cole kept going. "You don't need a lawyer if you're innocent," Cole said. "Lawyers are for guilty people who want to hide something. Are you guilty, Kevin?" Between 5 hours, Kevin was exhausted. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't slept. The room was deliberately kept cold, and the lights were bright and constant. He couldn't think straight anymore. That's when Cole changed his approach. "Listen, Kevin," he said, his voice softer now. "I know you didn't mean to hurt anyone. These things happen. You were probably just trying to get some money, and it went wrong. If you tell me what happened, I can help you. The judge will see you cooperated. But if you keep lying to me, they're going to throw the book at you. You could get the death penalty." Kevin started crying. "I didn't do it. Please. I swear to God I didn't do it." But Cole wouldn't stop. He kept pushing, kept lying, kept wearing Kevin down. Between 8 hours, Kevin's mind was broken. He couldn't think anymore. He just wanted it to stop. He wanted to go home. He wanted to sleep. "Okay," Kevin finally whispered. "Okay, I'll tell you what you want to hear." Cole smiled and pulled out a pre-written confession. "Just sign here, Kevin. Then you can rest." Kevin signed a confession to a murder he didn't commit. 3 days later, the real killer was caught in another state, bragging about the robbery. The gun matched. His fingerprints were at the scene. He even had the stolen money. You'd think Kevin would be released immediately, right? He wasn't. The prosecutor's office fought to keep Kevin's confession valid. They argued that even though the real killer was caught, Kevin might have been involved too. There was no evidence of this, but they didn't care. Detective Cole's confession was too valuable to throw away. Kevin spent 14 months in jail before a judge finally dismissed the case. 14 months of his life gone. No apology. No compensation. Nothing. But Kevin was one of the lucky ones. At least he got out. Kevin's case should have been a red flag. Someone should have investigated Detective Cole's methods. Someone should have asked questions. Nobody did. Instead, Cole kept working. Kept interrogating. Kept getting confessions. And the cases kept piling up. In 2007, a woman named Lisa Chen was convicted of arson based on Cole's interrogation. She confessed after 11 hours in the same room Kevin had been in. The fire had killed her neighbor, and Cole convinced her she must have started it during a mental breakdown she couldn't remember. Except fire investigators later proved the fire was caused by faulty wiring. Lisa had nothing to do with it. But she'd already served 3 years in prison by the time the truth came out. In 2009, brothers Deshawn and Andre Williams confessed to a gang-related shooting. Cole interrogated them separately, telling each one that the other had already confessed and blamed him. Both were 16 years old. Both were terrified. Both signed confessions. The actual shooter was caught 6 months later. He had acted alone. The Williams brothers had been at a family barbecue with dozens of witnesses when the shooting happened. But they'd already been convicted and sentenced to 20 years each. By 2012, defense attorneys in Chicago started noticing a pattern. Too many of Detective Cole's confessions were falling apart. Too many innocent people were going to prison. A young public defender named Sarah Martinez started digging. She requested records on every case Cole had worked. She found 53 cases where people had confessed during Cole's interrogations. When she looked closer, the numbers were terrifying. Of those 53 confessions, 31 had been overturned or had serious questions about the evidence. 18 people had been completely exonerated with proof they couldn't have committed the crimes. 12 were still in prison but had evidence supporting their innocence. 3 had died in prison while maintaining their innocence. Every single confession followed the same pattern: marathon interrogations lasting 6 to 12 hours, requests for lawyers that were ignored, psychological manipulation, and lies about evidence that didn't exist. Sarah brought her findings to her supervisor, then to the local news, then to the FBI. Finally, someone was listening. When investigators finally examined Detective Cole's methods, they found something shocking. He'd learned his techniques from a controversial interrogation manual that taught officers how to break down suspects psychologically. The manual recommended isolating suspects in uncomfortable rooms, using sleep deprivation and hunger, lying about evidence, which is legal in many states, ignoring requests for lawyers, creating false scenarios where confession seems like the only option. None of these techniques were illegal in Illinois. That was the problem. Cole had simply taken legal interrogation tactics and weaponized them. He didn't care if people were actually guilty. He cared about closing cases and building his reputation. His colleagues had nicknamed him the Closer, like it was something to admire. The department had given him awards for his conviction rate. Prosecutors loved him because his confessions made their jobs easy. Nobody asked why a detective working regular street crimes had a higher confession rate than FBI agents interrogating trained terrorists. The internal investigation found that supervisors had received complaints about Cole's methods at least 17 times over the years. Every complaint was dismissed. One lieutenant actually wrote in a report, "Detective Cole gets results. That's what matters." But here's the part that should make you angry. Even with all this evidence, Detective Cole was never charged with a crime. Why? Because lying to suspects during interrogations isn't illegal. Ignoring requests for lawyers is technically illegal, but it's hard to prove and rarely prosecuted. And there was no law specifically against psychologically coercing false confessions. Cole was forced to retire in 2014. He kept his pension. He was never arrested. He never spent a single day in jail for destroying the lives of more than 50 innocent people. Meanwhile, his victims were left to pick up the pieces. Today, Kevin Harris is 37 years old. He never went to college. He suffers from PTSD and has trouble trusting anyone in authority. Those 8 hours in the interrogation room changed him forever. Lisa Chen lost her job, her apartment, and custody of her son while she was in prison. Even after being exonerated, she spent years fighting to get her life back. Her son, who was 6 when she was arrested, barely speaks to her now. He grew up believing his mother was a murderer. The Williams brothers were released in 2015 after serving 6 years for a crime they didn't commit. Deshawn struggles with depression and hasn't been able to hold a job. Andre died in 2019 from a drug overdose. His mother says the prison system destroyed her son's spirit, and he never recovered. 3 people who confessed to Detective Cole died in prison before they could be exonerated. We'll never know for sure if they were innocent, but the pattern suggests they probably were. As of 2024, there are still 8 people in Illinois prisons serving time based on confessions obtained by Raymond Cole. Defense attorneys are working to reopen their cases, but the process is slow and expensive. Detective Cole himself has never publicly apologized. In one interview with a local newspaper, he said, "I did my job the way I was trained. If the system has problems, that's not on me. But here's what should give you hope. Kevin's case and the work of defense attorney Sarah Martinez led to major reforms in Illinois. In 2017, Illinois passed a law requiring all interrogations to be video recorded from start to finish. The law also requires officers to inform suspects of their rights multiple times during long interrogations and mandates breaks for food, water, and rest. Several other states have followed Illinois' example. The problem isn't solved everywhere, but it's getting better. Kevin Harris now works with the Innocence Project, helping other people who were wrongfully convicted. He says that sharing his story is the only way he's found healing. "I used to be angry all the time," Kevin said. "Angry at Cole, angry at the system, angry at myself for signing that confession. But anger was eating me alive. Now I use that energy to help other people. That's how I got my power back." The story of Detective Raymond Cole should terrify you. Not just because one man destroyed so many lives, but because the system allowed it to happen for 15 years. False confessions are more common than most people think. Studies show that about 25% of people who are exonerated by DNA evidence had previously confessed to crimes they didn't commit. Young people, people with mental disabilities, and people who are exhausted or scared are especially vulnerable to coercive interrogation tactics. The next time you see a confession on the news and think, "Well, they confessed, so they must be guilty," remember Kevin Harris. Remember Lisa Chin. Remember the Williams brothers. A confession isn't always the truth. Sometimes it's just what people say when they've been broken down and have nothing left. And until we fix the system that allows this to happen, Detective Cole won't be the last person to abuse their power this way.